Welcome to Join the Conversation, a podcast brought to you by COCM. In today's episode, we're chatting with Liz Toombs of PDR Interiors about her experience in transforming student housing spaces into havens of mental well-being. Liz is a certified interior decorator. She has channeled her experience into creating spaces that not only look beautiful, but also promote mental health across numerous campuses. Her work, which is recognized by major media outlets, reflects a commitment to nurturing environments where students can thrive. Beyond her design achievements, Liz's dedication to community and empowerment, seen through her philanthropic efforts and mentorship programs, underscores the importance of supportive spaces and fostering holistic wellness. Join us as we explore how Liz Toombs crafts more than just interiors. She designs sanctuaries for the mind.
Thanks for having me, Kyle. I'm excited to talk with you today.
And again, thank you for being here. This is a really exciting topic that it's definitely something that stays on my mind with being a mental health advocate. And I think it's very important for our listeners and people that operate in these spaces that we do. Mm-hmm. So to get us started, I just want to get a bit more insight into how do you approach designing these spaces that prioritize mental health for students, and maybe with that, give us a little bit of your history and background on how you got into this type of work.
Yeah, of course. I've always been interested in design since I was a little girl, and so in college, studied textiles, got into the kind of construction, new housing industry, then parlayed that into where I am today with my design business. And as a result of my contacts, was able to find this niche market of Greek housing. I'm Greek. I'm an Alpha Gamma Delta from the University of Kentucky. I loved my time within the organization, in the house. I loved how it supported my college experience. And so to be able to come back and do that as a career is very special to me. So that's kind of my background. To answer your question about how I approach mental health spaces for these students, I ask a lot of questions. Like, I need to understand, for you that's living in the house or you that is using the house on a daily basis, what kind of support do you need? What are the things that make you happy, that make you excited, that help you focus when you're studying in this room, but then over here make you, energized and excited to collaborate and visit with your sisters. So there's a lot of having to understand the student on a certain campus within a certain organization. So there's some variance there. But in general, it's just understanding that connection is the key for these students, and how can I make these spaces the best place to foster those connections.
That's wonderful. So you talk about these different kind of variants and these wonderful spaces. So in particular, can you share a project that particularly stands out to you in the aspect of creating a supportive environment for mental well-being?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first projects that mental wellness was ever brought to my attention was probably back in 2014, 2015. And the students kept asking me that this one particular TV room, they said, this is where we have our mental health meetings. So we need to make sure we can close the door. We need to make sure that we're comfortable, that women feel safe when they're in this space. And so, sure, I'm soaking it all in, trying to figure out what their needs are, how they're going to use it at these meetings. And then later on, I found out that the mental health support group was actually a name for a sexual assault victim support group. And that was very impactful to me. And so suddenly it went from being, oh, we get to make this room cute and fun for these sorority girls, to we are literally creating a safe haven for these women. And that story has always stuck with me, and I have probably told it 100 times over.
That's absolutely wonderful. So when you're coming into these spaces, there are some of these surprises there and different opportunities. So it's, I guess an additional question is not just a one size fits all type of space or projects that you might come into. What other type of issues have you seen that maybe some of these organizations or sites that you've worked with deal with? What are they using these places and safe spots for? That's not to go too much into some of these issues, but to at least get a highlight so that our listeners have an idea of what their students might be dealing with.
Yeah, sure. I wouldn't say that these are necessarily issues, but since 2020, some of the room usage has changed, as you can imagine, just like you and I are meeting virtually on Zoom, everything went virtual. And so what we're doing a lot in houses is taking small rooms, or potentially if you have an older house where there was you would go to the phone booth to talk to your family, or, talk to your boyfriend on the phone, we're turning those into interview rooms. And those are getting used where women and students of any kind, I guess, actually, depending on the facility, can take their laptop and they can have a telehealth appointment privately. They can do an interview for a job if they need to, which gets them out of the hustle and bustle of the rest of the house. They can take a test in there and have quiet, or whatever it is that they need, any kind of private conversation they need to have, they can step away and go to these smaller spaces. So I talked about connection being so important, but we all still need our privacy. And so we're seeing a lot more requests from both the students and the housing offices at the headquarters level for independent private spaces tucked into these larger areas.
Wonderful. So when you're designing these spaces, how do you balance that, the aesthetics of it and the functionality when creating these places that can support these different various needs in the mental health space or the privacy space?
This is where I geek out a little bit. So
Okay,
we always
wonderful.
try to make sure that there's a good backdrop, right? So if you are on camera with someone, that if it is a job interview or something super important, then we have a really beautiful wallpaper or a great piece of artwork. We want to make sure that the lighting is good so that the people look good on camera and also feel good when they're in the space. You don't want to feel like you look all sallow, or just not have it be a very welcoming environment. And then from a functionality standpoint, we're usually putting in like a simple desk or maybe a built-in countertop. A comfortable chair is important so that when you are seated there, that you're not tense or you don't feel uncomfortable if you're trying to do something. So it's those types of things, kind of balancing out the aesthetics and the function. And so they're fun little spaces to figure out.
So things like comfortable chairs, the gray wallpaper, different pieces like that. In what ways do you believe that these interior choices and these design decisions, how do you feel those things impact students' mental health and their academic performance? Well, where's the connection there?
Well, we just feel better and do better in spaces that we enjoy. So if the colors and the patterns and the textiles in the space make us feel comfortable and happy, we're going to perform better and just feel better as people, which is going to affect our mental health. And again, it's a little bit nuanced per person, but those are the keys, right? Like if I paint a room red, you're going to feel really energized and wound up in that room. So it's not always appropriate. And then in other instances, if I choose a soft blue or green, you're going to feel very relaxed. So you have to be very intentional with those types of things that go in the space and understand the purpose of the room and how you want someone to feel when they're in it. And then that will guide those aesthetic choices. And it all ties in together. I mean, from a residential standpoint, I tell people all the time, make your laundry room beautiful, because everyone hates doing laundry. So if you have a fun wall covering or really great artwork or something that makes you smile when you go in there, you're not so mad when you have to do the laundry. And that's a very simple example, but I think it definitely exemplifies what we're trying to talk about here.
That's a fantastic piece of advice. I was doing laundry yesterday, so I think I'm gonna take that home with me and kind of improve that space. I really love that. It's with experts like yourself, those things that it sounds simple now, but I would have never thought of that. So yeah, I'm gonna take that one from you, Liz. That's a wonderful piece of advice.
You'll have to send me a before and after picture.
Oh, definitely. I love doing my home improvement. So we talked about earlier, particular projects that kind of stood out to you. And I'm curious on, and I think a lot of our listeners, these site directors and whatnot, and people that are working in these spaces, what are some of the challenges that you faced in designing, particularly for the mental well-being, and how have you overcome them? Any challenges there that might be common or some that you've experienced personally in your work?
I'll be honest, there's not a lot of challenges that are coming to mind.
Okay.
I think it's more just opportunity to learn something new and to learn how to support the client and the student in their space. And for me, that's fun. And so I guess maybe I'm just not looking at it as challenging. And because anytime a project like that has come up, we've been able to find solutions. And so I'm real thankful for that.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And I think you hit a great point on, yeah, if there's no challenge there, it is an opportunity to learn and to grow and, find those solutions, as you said. That's wonderful.
Mhm.
Well, kind of looking to the future then, what are some of the trends that you see in this intersection of interior design and mental health?
I'm really excited. I've just started a certification program called Science in Design, and we're really getting into the sort of like neurological side of things and how we are affected by design. And so I'm just ready to dive into that and to grow so that I can take that knowledge to the clients and be able to talk more about that with people. I was just talking yesterday with another designer who's actually my business coach. Her name's Toby Fairley, and she was talking about she's starting to speak more on trauma informed design. And
Hmm.
she said that there's really not a lot of standards out there right now. And so it's all just starting to take shape and take form within our industry. And I think that's going to be really fascinating to watch because, I mean, we hear about it all the time. Everyone has some level of trauma in their life that they've dealt with. And so to understand how your interior can help support you as you're healing or, overcoming that, I think that's going to be really fascinating to watch.
Yeah, that is actually incredibly interesting. Definitely will be keeping up with you to see how that develops as well. So as we kind of wrap up here, what advice, we touched on it a little bit, but what advice or suggestions do you have for site directors and other student housing professionals who are advocating for mental health spaces on their campuses?
I think just keep listening to the students, keep talking to them to find out what it is that they need, figure out how you can adapt. It doesn't mean that I feel like every 4 years we kind of have a new vibe from the students coming in, and it's not always feasible to change over your facility that often, but there are small things that can be done. And so if you're listening and you're paying attention to how the student is adapting, just figure out how you can make your facility adapt to suit their needs as well, because they're who we're serving in this environment and they're, who we need to make sure that are happy in their spaces.
That's wonderful. I love that you touched on this is who we're serving at COCM. That's a big part for us is, serving our residents and serving the people in our communities.
Mhm.
This has been an absolutely wonderful conversation. I definitely think in the future, I want to sit back down with you and talk more on this. But until then, can you tell our listeners where they can find you online and maybe about any projects that are coming up? But where can we find you online and on social media?
Yeah, sure. So you can connect with us on Instagram and on TikTok. It's PDR Interiors. And then you can also go to our website, which is pdr-interiors.com. And I would love to have a follow-up conversation with you because I think we can talk about science and design. We can talk about your laundry room. There's a lot of
Yeah,
things we haven't touched on today.
definitely. I think the science in design, I'm very, very curious on that. And, I think we can definitely get an hour out of that conversation. That'd be wonderful.
Hmm.
Well, again, Liz, please, listeners, check out the wonderful things that Liz Toombs is doing with PDR Interiors. Thank you for tuning in with us and listening or watching wherever you get this podcast. And looking forward to having you back. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time, Liz. If you would like to learn more about the student housing professionals at COCM and third-party management of on-campus housing, visit our website at cocm.com. You can find more information about today's episode at studenthousingmatters.com. While you're there, check out our blog posts and videos, or submit an idea you'd like our team to explore.